The war between Israel and Hamas is about to enter day 6, but there are fears that other countries and other groups in the region could become involved. Democracy Project geopolitical analyst Geoffrey Miller is here with us this morning. Geoffrey, good morning. We've heard some reports of Hezbollah, which is based in Lebanon, becoming involved, or skirmishes around that border. Can you tell us who is Hezbollah, what is Hezbollah, and what impact might that have on the conflict in Israel?
Yes, well, there were reports overnight of a infiltration, a hostile aircraft that had gone into Israeli airspace. That turned out to be a false alarm. But Hezbollah is, it's a terrorist group. It's a client of Iran, which operates in Lebanon. It's not officially the government, but it does have a huge amount of sway up there. And, it's been firing rockets into Israel in the past few days. So there are real fears that there will be a second front. I mean, Israel fought a very bloody war against Hezbollah back in 2006, in July of that year, that killed, upwards of 1,000 Lebanese civilians. It was a very, very brutal conflict there in Israel's north. So, yes, there's real potential for this conflict to expand to become a two-front war, if and when, and I think it's more like when, Israel does invade Gaza.
Yes, and we'll talk about that ground incursion in just a second. But coming back to your point about Hezbollah, US President Joe Biden has warned, if you're thinking about getting involved, one word, don't. Do they care about that?
I'm not sure they will, Ryan. I think everything is off the table here, or on the table really, and anything could happen. There are just so many players involved here. There's also been rocket fire from Syria into Israel. Remember, Syria is to the northeast of Israel, and there's been shelling from the Israeli side in response. There are just so many players involved. Lebanon, Syria, the obvious ones, and then of course Iran, which is in many ways, the brains behind, the money behind, the weapons behind Hamas, and particularly Hezbollah.
At what point does America get seriously involved in something like this? What would it take?
Well, the US position really with Israel has always been to provide it with a lot of money, around $4 billion every year, and advanced technologies to allow Israel to defend itself. So there's no formal defense pact with Israel in the same way that you have with European countries with NATO, right? Israel is not a NATO member. So, the US is under no direct obligation to send boots on the ground because, the number of times that Israel does get attacked realistically by its neighbors. But I think this conflict really could spiral out of control, and we could see US troops on the ground at some point in Israel. I mean, remember, there are an unknown number of foreign hostages, including US nationals, being held captive now in Gaza. Those are the bargaining chips that Hamas has seized, and that then does provide a direct connection with the likes of the US in many countries. There's France, Germany, Russia. Many countries have got hostages now being held in Gaza. There's an unknown number, but upwards of 100, we think.
Yeah, you mentioned that there is a chance here that we'd have US troops on the ground. It's looking increasingly likely, not if but when, the Israeli Defence Force will move into Gaza on foot. How significant a development would it be to see an American soldier in Israel?
Oh, it would be huge. We're in uncharted territory here, Ryan, to use that old cliche. You have to go back to 1973 to find anything like what we're seeing at the moment. And even then, the Yom Kippur War that killed around 2,500 Israelis. We're already at half of that number now on the death toll. We're only a few days in. That the war in 1973 went on for 3 weeks. And this is a war against a terrorist group, Hamas, which has got really nothing to lose at this point. The 1973 war was against Egypt and Syria, so it was against direct nation states. This is against Hamas, which is a terrorist organization which is supplied and backed by Iran, but does act independently. And it seems to be that Hamas really did plan and carry out this attack independently. There was a US intelligence leak overnight about that, which suggests that the Iranian regime really was surprised about this. They're very pleased and they support what Hamas has done, but they weren't actually directly involved in the planning, according to these US intelligence reports, at least.
Can we go a little bit back in time to what happened after the Second World War to provide a bit broader context to what's happening here and especially with the Palestinians? Are you able to explain what happened at that time?
Yeah, well, you had the creation of Israel, right, in 1948. Israel celebrating its 75th anniversary of its existence this year, ironically, given how much it's under threat at the moment. And you also had then Palestine, and you had areas reserved for Palestinians. It was a UN partition plan. And then over time, things have changed. You had particularly the Six-Day War in 1967, which led to the Israeli occupation of Palestinian territory. And things really have never changed dramatically since then. Those Palestinian areas have remained firmly under occupation. We desperately need a long-term political solution to all of this. It's been untenable. You've had this open-air prison, if you like. It's been a powder keg. All these metaphors have been used for years now as to what's been happening in Gaza. They've been under this blockade since 2007 when Israel withdrew, and they put up this big border fence to try and keep Hamas in and keep Israelis safe. And it was a securitized solution to a political problem. And we need a long-term two-state solution. So if there's any good that will come out of this devastating war at the moment, it will be that we need to find a durable solution once and for all, because even Israel will see that their strategy has completely and utterly failed. And I think Benjamin Netanyahu is probably realizing that right now.
Yes, you talk about this border between Gaza and Israel, but of course there's the border at the southern end between Gaza and Egypt as well. We know that Israel is not going to be providing food, water, fuel via the north, but is there potential for any humanitarian aid to come via the southern border?
There is, and Egypt is now in talks with Israel, the US, and the UN is brokering these, I understand, to allow a humanitarian corridor into Egypt. Egypt has been blockading Gaza just as much as Israel has over the last decade or so, or even longer, because they fear of the instability of you having, a wave of Palestinian refugees coming into Egypt, not to mention Hamas fighters coming in. So, they've been keen to keep Gaza separate, but hopefully there will be some humanitarian deal to allow supplies to go into Gaza, food, fuel, electricity. That's what Gazans need, but also to allow Palestinians out. And presumably we'll be looking at camps being set up on a grand scale. There are 2.2 million Palestinians in Gaza on a tiny area. The area of Gaza is only slightly bigger than Wellington City, not Greater Wellington, but just literally Wellington City. It's a tiny space, and they are sitting ducks for for these Israeli airstrikes at the moment, and a ground invasion. And there are many civilians there who've got nothing to do with Hamas, and they are victims of this as much as, of course, ordinary Israelis.
One final question for you, Jeffrey. We've only got about 30 seconds, which I know is not a lot of time when you're talking about Israel and you're talking about Hamas. But what would happen if Israel goes in, with the Israeli Defence Force goes into Gaza and they kill all of the so-called terrorists that they want to, kill all the Hamas militants? What happens then? Who runs Gaza?
Well, that's anyone's guess, isn't it? Look, Israel wants to obliterate Hamas, and that was Hamas's goal for Israel, was to obliterate Israel. That was in their founding charter from 1987. If Israel wants to do the same to Hamas, you've got the question, what comes next? As I said, you need a long-term political solution. Hamas are terrorists. There's nothing good really about Hamas. They do provide healthcare, education, and so forth, but really it's a front for their terrorist activities. And that's become very, very clear over the past few days.
Certainly has. Thanks so much for that this morning. Jeffrey Miller, Democracy Project geopolitical analyst, with us from Dunedin, 20 after 8 this morning. That was really interesting, especially the concept that Benjamin Netanyahu will be basically regretting not regretting, but it's an admission, what's happened on Saturday, that the approach that they've taken is not sustainable. You know, if you quash, or you think you've quashed Hamas, in 20 years' time, in 10 years' time, or whatever, something like this is potentially going to happen again. So whatever approach has been taken at the moment is clearly not a sustainable one.
No.
For either side. Yeah.